look, so tell me about how, I mean, Solomon Farm. I mean, how'd you come up with the name? I mean, how'd you get into the
Man.
farming business? I mean, when you and I were talking, what I understand is, I mean, you had no real farming. Maybe you had a tradition of farming, but you yourself had not really done a whole lot of farming.
Yeah.
So how'd you end up?
I really hadn't been exposed to farming at all. How I started was, I guess I'll tell you the short, long story. In 1995, I became a single dad. I used to
Okay.
live in Lewisburg, and I decided to move from Lewisburg with my two children and find another location. And with that, my thought process is, if I got to find another location, another home for me and my children, I'm going to find the biggest land mass that I could find so that I could find enough land that will pay for itself. So with that, I searched and searched and searched, and about 2-3 years later, I ended up finding a spot, and it was almost 7 acres. And eventually, the guy I got it from, he asked me, it was like, "Are you one of those Williams?" I was like, "Yes, sir." That used to own some of that land back there. I was like, "Yes, sir." He was like, "Well, you're probably some kin to the people that I possessed the land with." And eventually I found out that used to belong to my great-granddad. The
Is that
land
right?
Yes, sir.
Now, how cool is that? Now, did you know that when you were looking at the land?
No, not at all.
So it all just kind of serendipitously sort of happened.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I mean, so then I guess you learned that, you start doing a little bit of research. You think,
Yes.
sure enough, it's my great-granddad.
Yep. Great-granddad's land.
All right, so how does John Williams enter a farm called Solomon's Farm?
Well, my great-granddad's name was actually Saul,
Okay.
and I just kind of kicked the name up a little bit and called it Solomon's Farm. And I just started working that concept by myself. And over time, since I've been working that farm by myself, I said I picked the perfect name because since I do things by myself, I think it's solo man's farm because I do everything by myself.
Absolutely. No, I get that. And then the other thing is, what great wisdom, too. And
Yes.
then Lord knows we need all the wisdom we can get.
Exactly.
So I understand that in your research, you were doing a little bit that Mr. Solomon had a cane mill, old molasses mill.
Yes.
Do you still have a molasses mill?
No, I don't have the molasses mill. That stuff had diminished a long time ago. I got that information from my grandfather, which is passed. He just passed last November. I got as much information as I could from him and my great uncle that used to live down the road. And they used to tell me about all the barn raisings, Sunday cooks. They used to have in the wash pot. They used to cook fish and feed the neighborhood, back there in those woods.
Well, it's funny. I've heard the same stories.
Yeah.
My dad grew up on an old back farm, and
Yeah.
and it does sound like a real sense of community
Yes.
that existed in a time it seems long gone by now.
Yes.
So one of the things that I had done back in my 20s, I guess, is I decided I wanted to learn some of these things that I've heard all the old people talk about. One was a hog killing.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about every family had a different little job. One family might be to scrape off the fur. The other one was to steam it. Others to, and on and on and on. Well, one of those stories was about making molasses.
Oh, yeah.
So I found this fella who had an old, cane mill like you're talking about. And I called him up. I knew him. He's down in Washington County, not far from Plymouth. And I said, "Mr. Plumlee, Mr. Ralph, do you mind showing me how to make molasses?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Man, I've about long given up on that. It's a lot of work."
That's right.
Anyway, long story short, we ended up making molasses, and it took me about a day and a half. But it was a lot of fun. So I was hoping to find that you still had an old cane mill there.
Yeah.
That's awful cool.
Yeah.
All right, so you found the land.
Mm-hmm.
And now you branded it, branded it with your great-grandfather's name, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
I think super cool.
Yes.
Solo Man or wisdom of Solomon, however you want to look at that.
Yes, sir.
So now you have created basically a farm to table, sort of a mini grocery store.
Yes.
So I want to hear about that because I think that's a big part of the story and really the reinvention of yourself and the creation of taking this opportunity and really building something out of it.
Yes. Well, with the farm to table concept and other things that I built on the farm, because it has a few other divisions on that 7 acres that I have. Like I told you, when I was a single dad, I had to leave my home, and my home was almost paid for. And eventually I did get it paid for, but it got vandalized, got beat up real bad. So eventually I ended up going back to Lewisburg and taking the house down piece by myself.
Wow.
And
You took your house.
Yes, sir.
From Franklin County,
Yes,
North
sir.
Carolina, board by board by board, and you rebuilt that.
I brought I brought my house with me.
That is a fantastic.
Yes, sir.
How did you do that? I mean, in all seriousness,
Two
you have to
hands.
know. Well, I got that, and a lot of will to work, and
Yes.
determination,
Yes.
perseverance.
Yes.
I mean, all those great things. But really, how do you do? You like number the boards? I mean, how's that work? I mean,
Man.
just even logically, how's that work?
I don't know. I just worked it.
Yeah.
I think I became a master of time.
Yeah, you
You
did.
have to become the master of time when you're farming and doing any other thing like that. You know, you can't waste time. You can't let anything impede on your time. You have to utilize time and time yourself.
So you're doing this all the same time. You bought the 7 acres of land.
Yes.
So I guess in the wintertime, maybe you're moving the house
Yes.
in part. But
After I got off work.
after you get off work,
'cause
now we got to go back to the whole, that we started with, where you're not talking about. I mean, you didn't know anything about farming. I mean, you maybe from the culture, just like me.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you that I've ever grown anything much more in the garden here and there, and that's been with mixed results.
Yeah.
So how did you learn enough to
Wow.
do that and commercialize it? Because that's no small deal.
Yeah. Well, I actually had joined an organization. I was a young man at the time.
Yeah.
And I started doing a whole lot of running, just like young men do. But I found that I needed some more discipline in my life. So I actually had joined the Nation of Islam at one point in time in life. And because I always knew they had a recipe for slowing guys down and making them more disciplined and, with that. So I had no idea that they had ministries in the Nation of Islam. And they had the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Trade and Commerce, Ministry of Health, so many other ministries. So I took to the Ministry of Trade and Commerce and the Ministry of Agriculture. So with that, things started to really spawn and spiral into control.
Right.
Yes, sir. And yeah.
Well, tell me about the time frame of that. So, you say you're a young man, and so you're, I guess, taking these courses.
Yes.
Offered by the church in this case.
Yes.
And that kind of plants the seed, no pun intended, or maybe the pun is intended.
Yes.
To do that. So how long of a gap between, call it, taking that agricultural lessons to actually it happening?
Well, in 2005, I think I joined them. And as soon as I joined, I was excited about it, and I joined the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And from 2005, me learning with them, studying with them, disciplining myself, and just learning about agriculture since I was in the Ministry of Agriculture, because they actually don't teach you agriculture. I think it's pretty much left up to you to go out there and explore the world.
I see.
And that's what I did. So anything to do with agriculture, I would study it. The Nash Extension Office, I've indulged with them. Virginia State University, when I started working night shift, I would drive to Virginia State University to take a workshop before I came to work in the evening time to work all night long. Anything with any kind of workshop I could take pertaining to agriculture.
All right. So what do you grow? What are the things? What's sort of your mainstay? And obviously you've got some sort of rotation.
Yes.
Cold weather, tends to work with some crops versus hot weather and so on and so forth. So tell me all about that.
I grow mainly what I call herbs that I can handle and vegetables I can handle, such as the larger ones, such as squash, cabbage, collards, different types of pumpkins, and the bigger items, plus herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I do honey as well. I learned how to beekeep, and I do honey as well.
That's something I actually do a little bit on the side as well.
Yes.
I love beekeeping. We'll come back to that.
Yes, sir.
But anyway.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's great. So you've opened up a food mart really here in town.
Yes,
downtown.
that's just one of them, yeah.
I know, it's just one of them.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about that, because I've seen it. It's cool looking. I've seen your picture in the paper, and a great opportunity to meet you here and hear about it. But tell me about that. How what was the genesis story of that?
Well, again, I'm the type person, before I started farming, I bought myself a tow truck. And I started junking cars because, again, like I said, if I have to buy some land, I'm going to get enough land as to where I can do something with the land, as to where I can pay for itself. I'm a single dad with children, and I got to figure out how to make all things work,
Mm-hmm.
Like I tell people, I have to put my brain in the microwave and get stuff done quick.
I love that.
Yes,
I may
sir.
borrow that phrase.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But with that again, I had a big junkyard in the back before I had the farm. And eventually I got tired of looking at all that junk and I got rid of that.
Okay.
And I started merging over into farming. And with that, one of my buddies gave me a regular farm trailer. It's just a regular farm trailer. They offered it to me and I was like, yeah, I'll take it.
Sure.
And so I put it in the woods and left it there until it started marinating into something else, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah, so I would get a piece here, take a piece there, and eventually my neighbors had a barn that they wanted to tear down, and they was like, well, I actually just wanted 10, the old rusty 10, and they were like, well, you know, if you tear the whole thing down, you can have the 10. I was like, wow, okay. Nice sized barn, but I went ahead and took it down by myself again.
Right. Did you rebuild that too?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't rebuild the barn,
Yeah.
but I did salvage the 10, that old rustic 10. I'm looking for more projects to do with that 10, but of course, again, you can see with that farm stand, it does have that 10 on it.
All right, so just time out here now. So we've 2005. We have bought some land, 7 acres. Turns out to be part of your old family
Yes, sir.
farmland and heritage anyway.
Yes,
You moved a house
yes,
from Lewisburg,
Yeah.
board by board by board.
yes,
You started a farm. You
Yes.
figured out the rotation of crops so that you can maximize the
Oh,
use of the land, the 7 acres.
yes.
You got a food trailer, mart here in Rocky Mount, one of several apparently.
Yes.
And you had also been in the salvage business. So
Oh, yeah.
is there any other surprises that I don't know about? Yeah, and don't forget, we're also beekeepers,
Okay.
which might be the easiest part of everything you've told me so far.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the surprises, like I tell people, I got more stuff to me than the septic tank does. So. Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, it was good stuff, though.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, with that again, when I tore that house down piece by piece, I decided it was an older house. It had clapboard on the side. Me liking artwork and antiquities, I did not want to let that clapboard go to waste. So I built a farm store on the farm. You know, again by myself. So I have a store on the farm that I used to sell products in, kind of constantly, but I stopped using that store and I just only use it for events now. So when I have events and workshops at the farm, quite natural, I'm going to have farm stocked. Well,
So what's the address of the farm so that folks can go out there and visit or at least participate in a workshop?
It's 3524 Duke Road, Nashville, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
Well, okay, so back to the bees. So that's kind of a natural extension of farming because you want something to pollinize it.
Exactly.
And I assume that's how you got in it, but is there another story? You've been full of surprises, so I'm almost scared to ask you a question.
Well, again, you know, I think a lot of it was a spiritual journey as well, much less I already saw the benefit of farming and the monetary benefit of it as well. Again, I didn't even know how all this stuff happened. And when I met Mark Froman at the SCORE Business Counselor office, and he was like, did you know you had 3 different businesses? After I explained him what I was doing, I was like, man, what are you talking about?
Sure.
And then I got in my Forrest Gump mode. I just said I just started running, and I just ended up with 3 businesses. You know.
Next thing you know, you're in California on your way back to the East Coast.
Exactly.
I understand.
Exactly. But you know, when it comes to beekeeping and farming and everything, I just got so engulfed in farming and agriculture and agribusiness, just the thought and the concept and the style of it, it just excited me. And I just started running with it.
All right, so how old are your children? Are they still at the house or have they moved on?
They are
Okay.
grown and gone.
So you are solo man.
Yes,
now.
sir. I am solo man. Yes, sir.
All right, well, look, let's talk a little bit about that. We'll call it a spiritual journey. Let's talk about, because young men do like to try to run a little bit.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You clearly identified that for you that you needed a little bit more structure.
Yes.
And that's created at least some of these opportunities and events that have transpired, which I think is a fabulous, fascinating story. And but I'd like to hear a little bit about that journey because I sense from just talking to you, that's really the story.
Yes.
The fact that you have a farm's cool.
Yeah.
The fact you have a beehive's pretty cool. The fact that you figured out how to make it work through adversity, and you figured out what you could do, and you did it.
Yes.
That's only part of the story.
Yes. Very small part.
Right.
Yes. The spiritual journey, again, like I said, I joined the Nation of Islam probably 2005, 2006. And with that, I met Minister Farrakhan. and he spoke highly of Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I don't know what his connection is to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, but he constantly talks about Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And me being a devoted member of the nation at that time, I wanted to do everything I could do to satisfy that man and kind of intertwine my concept with the intermingling with that. So me being me, I didn't necessarily want to benefit him because he is here to help us and humanity. So what I did, while working a job, I was farming, and I ended up buying a building downtown Rocky Mount. Because to me, in my mind, Rocky Mount looked like a pretty girl. That's what I always called it. It was a pretty girl.
Sure.
If you go downtown Rocky Mount, it looks like that girl is shaped exactly right. She's not too big. She's not too small. She's eclectic enough. She's artsy enough. So I wanted a piece of that pretty girl.
There you go.
And I got a piece of that pretty girl, which I own the building downtown now, which is at 125 Sunset. And I started working on that building, that part of the pretty girl. But the thing was, I got tired. I got exhausted. I just wanted to get some excitement out of that spot. So I kind of redecorated and refinished that farm stand and put that there, and here it is.
And it looks fantastic,
Yes,
by the
sir.
way. So
Yes,
you've
sir.
also got the interior. I guess there are plans in the future for you to convert that maybe to a produce store stand, or
Somewhat.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
kind of describe what your vision is on that, because I mean you represent a big part of redevelopment of Rocky Mount
Yes, sir.
downtown,
Yes.
and it is done just a step at a time, one
Yes.
idea at a time.
Yes.
And I'm glad to hear that you've worked with council such as Mark Froman,
Oh,
who
yes, yes.
is an incredibly talented, smart individual
Yes.
who gets it
Yes.
and just trying to equip people to be successful. So,
Yes.
so talk a little bit about what your vision is for that space.
Well, that space, when I first got it, I liked the location for number one. And number two, I just like that quaint little building. It's cute, but it's masculine. But again, it's artistic and it's archaic. I like the arches on the window. The building fits just right with what I'm doing. And I actually call the building a little shot house. I don't know if you're familiar with
I'm
what a
familiar
shot
with shot house.
I
Yes, sir.
call it a shot house because it's just that straight, whatever. And whenever I get the proper name for it and licensing for it, that's exactly what I'm going to call it. But the name will work according to what I'm going to do with the product that's going to be inside as well. Nothing alcoholic. It'll be all health
Sure.
efficient, and probably most of the products will be coming from the farm.
Sure. John, I just got to ask you about the store that you plan to put together.
Yes.
You can put some herbs in there, some tinctures.
Yes.
And I'm not even sure that I understand exactly what a tincture is. So,
Yes.
if you could tell us a little bit about that,
Yes.
I think that would be of great interest to a lot of folks.
Yes. Well, I grow quite a few herbs, and whenever I grow herbs, I like to figure out, as many uses of the herbs that I can use, whether it be medicinal or culinary. I make tinctures out quite a few herbs, such as mushrooms, elderberries that I picked the other day, and basil sage, and mullein leaf. What tinctures are used for, a lot of times it's medicinal use. You can make tinctures out of water, oil, or alcohol. I mainly choose alcohol because it extracts better and it gives a tincture a more shelf life if you use alcohol, such as vodka. Vodka has a 50-50 water and alcohol content, and it's more balanced to make a tincture out of.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
So you really sort of an herbal medicinal qualities that you're trying to bring out. So we'll call it our very own People's Pharmacy here,
Yes, sir.
right
Yes, sir.
here in Rocky Mount.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So where did you learn about tinctures and how to pull it all together? I mean, that's a journey by itself.
Yes, I've taken a lot of workshops over time. Like I said, I've gone to Virginia State University sometimes before I went to work, drive all the way to Virginia before I came back to work night shift. And I would take those workshops. I took some in Vance County, and of course the internet. I'm a big YouTuber, so everything I can learn off YouTube and the internet, I'll find it.
Yeah.
And lately I've been taking a herbalist workshop as well.
Okay, well,
Yes, sir.
what did we do before the internet? I remember a day when I actually had to go in office. I had to sit by a landline so
Yes.
that people could call me
Yes.
and walk down the hall, do whatever I needed to do.
Yes.
And I had to, couldn't leave before a certain time. Now, I don't think I ever get off work. It's
Yes.
just a fluid environment,
Yes.
and I love it. But at the same time, it's a challenge too.
Yes,
But the internet is filled with lots of opportunities,
Yes.
lots of information.
Yes. I don't see how you can lack anything without internet unless you don't have internet.
You're
I don't
right.
see how you can.
Well, even then, I mean, there's so many other Wi-Fi spots that are open
Yes.
to the public, and
Yes.
library, well, shoot, even McDonald's, Hardee's,
Yes.
places like that now.
Yes.
One of the things that I think is follow-up is we really need to talk about why are you excited to come to Rocky Mountain? I know we talked about the pretty girl,
Yes.
and you wanted a piece of it and started
Yeah.
working on her,
Yeah.
but what's the real draw there? I mean, particularly given you're from Centerville, I mean, I don't know how many times you've been in the area
Yes.
growing up, but that's probably part of the story.
Well, downtown Rocky Mountain does have that eclectic feel. It has an artsy feel. I like art, artwork, craftsmanship, not calling myself an artist, but a certain person that is an artist, I think deep down inside, they have an appreciation for
Well, now,
certain
Mr.
things.
Williams, I've got to correct you. I have seen the farm stand, and it looks pretty fantastic to
Yeah.
me. And you did that all by yourself.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think you are minimizing your
Yes.
talents, your ability. I think you're an artist.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I just couldn't let that slide without,
Yes,
I
sir.
think that's a reasonable, correction there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You are an artist.
Yes,
and
sir.
But anyway, back to Rocky Mountain. Why
Yes.
downtown?
It again is that pretty girl. Like I said, when I first moved around here with my children, we did, once I got back on my feet, we used to get in the car and ride and ride and ride. And I think in 95 or 6, before Rocky Mountain, in my opinion, started coming back around, it was kind of dimsel, kind of distressed, if I could say that. And I saw the opportunity with the empty buildings down Rocky Mountain. My thing was, I don't think I had gotten my house at that time, and I was trying to get my house situated. But the thing was, I was looking at the building that they have the self-help building in now. I wanted that building, I called about that building, and I didn't get a good answer, and I was trying to figure out, man, is my credit gonna be able to handle that and this new house? And I had to settle for the new house, which I'm glad I did.
Well, of course. I mean, that's
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the Bible says build the house before you,
Yes, yes.
move forward. But
Yes.
so I think that's just absolutely great.
Yes. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, that building was a BB&T building.
Yes, it was.
And in 1990, whatever, the Carlton House was still open and operational,
Yes,
both
yes.
as a hotel and restaurant. So
Yes.
I think I'm beginning to show my age, and you
Yeah.
apparently you're showing yours
Yes,
too.
Yes. But yeah, I was very anxious about, seeing some of the architecture down Rocky Mountain. It was exciting. I saw the potential in it. Had
There
great
are
potential.
some absolutely beautiful
Yes.
buildings down there, some structures, and I'm excited to see folks
Yes.
beginning to reinvest, buy some of
Yes.
those. Now, redevelopment never seems to happen as fast as we want it
Yes.
to.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, just to see the acquisition, the properties changing hands,
Yes.
seeing folks, kind of shoring up the properties, even
Yes.
seeing some new redevelopment.
Yes.
We've got one developer here in town, is building some apartments, and I think that's just fantastic.
Yes.
So it's just that first step,
Yes.
and then there's a second step.
Yes.
So it's evolving.
Yes.
And it's exciting to see. And I'm glad you're part of that.
Yes, I'm glad to be too. I enjoy the cornucopia of people that's downtown Rocky Mountain. It's metro, it's kind of retro, whole lot of other things that go with downtown Rocky Mountain.
Sure.
Yeah, it's everything. Yeah.
All right. So what have I not asked you that you feel like you ought to share with everybody? Because
Yeah.
I think that's important, to give folks an opportunity to do
Have you not asked?
that.
There's quite a few things that I can answer if you do ask, but
Right.
I am gearing my farm stand and my farm enterprise to educate people on farming and tutoring and nurturing people on doing that. I do have one couple in the Whitakers area that I am very proud of. They bought themselves a farm based upon what I've given them,
Right?
and they are starting to do some great things.
It's
And-
wonderful.
Yes, sir.
It is about community. It's about people touching
Yes,
people. And
yes.
I want to thank you for doing that.
Oh,
and
yes, sir.
I want to tell you, I want you to be successful. Anything I can do to help in that endeavor, I certainly would love to be part of it.
Yes.
We'll get all that information. Maybe we can put it up on the show on the screen so that
Right.
folks can see it.
Yes.
And gosh, thank you so much for being
And
here.
thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor Sandy Roberson, and I want to tell you about one of my favorite holidays that's coming up this month. That's Halloween. Now, while I enjoy the costumes and handing out candy, I want to encourage you to limit your Halloween activities this year. to minimize the opportunity for contracting COVID-19. Unfortunately, any scenario in which people gather together poses a risk for transmission during this pandemic. For guidance, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has these recommendations for low-risk, alternative Halloween activities to stay safe. Instead of traditional door-to-door trick or treating, consider partnering with a small group of other families to share candy while maintaining mask and social distancing. Carve pumpkins outside with a small group of neighbors or friends. Decorate your house, apartment, or living space for the holiday. Have a virtual Halloween costume contest where children can show off their costumes. Host a Halloween family night watching scary movies together, or organize a Halloween scavenger hunt where children are given lists of items to look for as they walk through a neighborhood admiring the decorations. Moderate risk activities would include line up individually wrapped candy at the end of your driveway for trick-or-treaters to take. Reverse trick-or-treat, where children dress in their costumes and stay home while neighbors or family members bring candy by as they admire the costumes. Have a small open-air parade of costumed children while maintaining social distancing. Higher risk activities to avoid include participating in the traditional trick-or-treating. Have a trunk-or-treat event where treats are handed out from car trunks in large parking lots. However you decide to celebrate Halloween, please don't forget to wash your hands often, maintain social distancing, and wear a COVID-safe mask, not just a Halloween mask. So please stay safe. Thank you.